Hello, everyone. Welcome back to one of the videos where I do my best to share tips and advice and suggestions for you to make your move abroad as smooth as possible. And today we're going to be hearing from someone else. We have Darren with us from Kipper Tree, and Darren has a very interesting journey here in Portugal. So I thought it would be really interesting for everyone to hear what he has to say, his journey, and also how he helps people who are also planning their journey into Portugal. Welcome, Darren. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here. Lovely to see you.
It's great. I always like to have people on because then it's just not me giving advice or tips. We can share the love and people can really hear from those who've done it besides myself. So I think it's a very rich opportunity, and I thank you so much for your time, for being here. So before we get into the meat of things, and you talk about the expat experience or how you came to Portugal. Tell us something about yourself that no one knows or no one would imagine.
Oh, wow. Well, I wouldn't say nobody knows because somebody knows almost everything about me. But something you might not imagine is when I was a younger man, 25 years ago, I used to show ducks as a hobby. So as people show dogs, like with Crufts, there's the equivalent for ducks. And I used to do that in my spare time.
That's funny. I've never seen that. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to Google it.
It's a big it's a big thing, believe it or not. And it's just like the dogs, but with ducks. And it's just the same. It's just as competitive, just as awful in many respects, the competition. But yeah, I used to do that, and I became quite successful. But it all stopped. It got a little bit out of hand and a bit too big, so I stopped it all.
That's funny. Well, not only have I learned something about you, I've learned something about ducks as well.
Yeah, well, look it up. It's a big thing in the UK.
I will for sure look it up. Thank you for sharing that. So, Darren, please share also now a little bit of your journey. How did you land in Portugal? What prompted you to come? Can you share a little bit of that? Because I'm sure people want to hear other stories when they're preparing for their move.
Well, yeah, it was 15 years ago, but more than that, 17 years ago, and I was completely downtrodden with pressure of work. We'd had our first child, and my wife was at home, and I just felt I was missing out on so much. So I just came home one day, having had a board meeting that didn't go particularly well, and said, right, let's do something different. Something's got to give. I'm just working to pay a mortgage. So we started to look around. We did a few trips to the Inner Hebrides in Scotland, believe it or not. And then my wife basically said, look, if we're going to do it, well, at least make it somewhere hot. So we, at that time, there wasn't a great deal online. I honestly can't remember how we stumbled across the website that we ultimately found our first property. But we were looking at ruins, piles of rubble to renovate. And we literally got on a plane on a Friday, met with some people on a Saturday, bought the ruin on Sunday, and flew back Monday, having never been to Portugal. So we took a huge risk, but we thought, well, what have we got to lose if it doesn't work? We've still got our jobs. We can always get a job back in the UK if need be. So it then took a couple of years to sell our property. We did that, and we had two properties, so we sold both of them. We bought a motorhome, and we literally jumped in the motorhome with a dog, a pregnant wife, a 2-year-old, and me driving, and made our way to Portugal. And bizarrely, it took us 4 days to get here, but bizarrely, we couldn't find what we bought. We did so little research. We didn't even have an address. It took 2 hours driving around trying to remember this pile of stones that we bought. So that's how it all started.
Wow, talk about a leap of faith.
Well, you shouldn't do that now. I wouldn't advise doing it, but you know, we did. We were younger, and we wanted to get to Portugal to get the children into schooling, into Portuguese schooling early, so that they could learn the language. So it was key that we did it when we did it. And the exchange rate at that time was phenomenal in terms of the euro and sterling. So it was financially, it was a good time to move. And then we went through all the troubles of trying to renovate a ruin in Portugal, constantly visiting the camera. The builders didn't show up. The guy who was supposed to do the planning left for Africa and left us in a big mess. So everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. But we did it. We achieved it. We stayed in the house for 4 years and then sold it. We made a profit and moved on to a newer build, having realized that old ruins are cold. They're not the best properties to live in. So be aware, if you're thinking of renovating a ruin, you need some serious advice on how to do that to get yourself a decent property. So yeah, and then we moved to a new build, which was much better. And then finally onto where we are now, moved into Tumar. I think the key thing was that we bought the ruin in a really rural location, thinking that's what we wanted. Mm-hmm. But as the children grow, their needs change, and it was far too remote for you know, kids going to school and stuff. So the next property was better situated, but still fairly remote. And then, due to the fires that we had in Portugal at the time, both properties had been affected. So we just decided that we'd move to the city. And now we live in, well, on the outskirts of Tumar, about 5 minutes outside of Tumar. And it's just better all around for us, for the children. It's safer. So yeah, that's really the crammed into a short 5 minutes, but that's really what happened. And because of that, and because of the experience, that's why even 10 years ago, I was contemplating a better way for people to move to Portugal, and how they should do it compared to how we did it. You know, nobody should be taking a leap of faith, not anymore. The power of the internet's so great that there's enough information out there to do it sensibly and get it right. Not saying it'll be perfect, but you stand a much better chance of succeeding.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that story would be an amazing novel for sure. I mean, the twists and turns and the decisions.
I wish I'd written it all down, because it would. But there was so many highs and lows. It was a roller coaster. It really was.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say, you know, how your priorities change with the change in the family unit, right? You know, no kids, then small kids, then school age kids. And that's something really important, because many times people say, oh, I've moved abroad before. I have it, you know, I have it sorted out. It's like, yeah, but we never move. We're never the same person when we're moving, because we did it usually with a different lifestyle, a different financial situation, or a different family situation, and our priorities move, our values move, or change for a new move. So it's interesting you say that, because that really shows how, you know, the first place might not be the forever place, and sometimes people have this expectation.
And I think, you know, when we first landed, we wanted to be rural. We wanted to grow our own vegetables. We wanted to farm the land that we had, et cetera, et cetera. And it's incredibly hard work to do the work, but to dumb down from the lifestyle that you had. So it's a bit of a shock. And then you realize, well, do I actually really want that? You know, do I want to be gardening 8 hours a day? No, I don't. And, you know, for example, we would never have bought a property that was anywhere near a railway line because of the noise. Yet now, because my daughter's 17, it's been key for her to get to Queenborough or wherever she wanted to go, that we've got a better infrastructure in terms of motorways and rail links. So you do change. You prioritize change. And people should be aware of that, because when you move house, it costs money. So, you know, you can't keep moving house continually. Because, absolutely. You know, the property market here is not like maybe the States or the UK, where it's easy to sell. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to move your property and to make any money on it. So people need to be aware of that they don't just jump in and buy the first thing that they see because they think that's what they want.
Yeah. And it's good you're sharing this, because that was actually my next question. Like, what tips or advice would you give someone who comes like thinking like, okay, I'm starting to look for property, I'm starting to plan in Portugal? What would you advise them to do or not to do?
The first thing I would advise is to do it in February, so that they can get a real feel for just how cold Portugal can be in the winter. Because, I was talking to a guy yesterday at Sunday that I went to interview about his business in Portugal, and he gets -7 in the particular valley where he lives. Now, he said you've only got to go 500 meters up the road and it only gets to -1. But just in this little valley, he lives in a frost pocket. And he said, the Portuguese are fantastic at offloading property that is cold in the winter and land. So be aware of that. Don't come in the summer because you just feel like you're on holiday and everything's great. Come in the winter, come in November, even when it's raining, and get a real feel for the country at its worst. That's the first thing I would say. And secondly, do your homework. It's not just about the property. Look at the location, look at its infrastructure, look at what's there. Make an informed decision rather than just diving in because you found a pretty property that ticks most of the boxes. You've got to be able to get about. You've got to be able to think about where you're going to be in the next 15 years. So, will you be mobile? Will your health be there? Has it got, doctors, surgeries, hospitals, things that you might need in the future, rather than, if you're fit now, yes, you're fit, but what about, 15, 20 years down the line? And, the other thing I would say is get somebody to look at the property. You would never in the UK or in the States buy a property without a survey. It just doesn't happen. In fact, it's not even allowed.
Yeah. You mean an inspection? Is that what?
Yeah, an inspection, a property inspection. Now, it doesn't happen in Portugal. It's not compulsory, and people don't do it. And why? When they would never dream of doing it in their own country. Why would you buy a property without getting it inspected? And there are people here that are expats that run these type of businesses that you can speak to somebody in English who also speaks Portuguese, who understands the rules, what you can do, what you can't do. Back in the day, you used to be able to turn up, rebuild a property just how you saw fit. You can't do that anymore. There are rules, there are planning regulations, even for renovation. So get an expert in. I did nearly buy a property once, and I had an expert come in, and not only did he inspect the property, which was fine, but he also asked to see the paperwork. And I took him to my solicitor, who was just around the corner, and he discovered, not my solicitor, that the property was actually built illegally. So,
oh wow!
And I was on the day of signing and giving the deposit. So we pulled out. We saved ourselves a huge nightmare. The council were aware that the property was illegal and had just let it go.
Wow.
So,
that's a very important cautionary tale to everyone watching.
Well, I got in a RICS approved surveyor, and I'll always be in his debt for that. It cost me €800, but it saved me €250,000
plus the headache.
Yeah, and all right, maybe I could have spent the next 10 years trying to get it legalized, but it would have just, as you say, just been a massive headache.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just make sure you get an expert in. You get a good solicitor, a good surveyor or inspection company, and you have show some due diligence in buying it, because you would in any other in your own country.
Absolutely.
You would do that.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you say this, because I've been doing some interviews with people who help in many different areas, like scouting trips and information platforms. And the common theme is get help.
Yeah.
Is, get specialized help, whatever area it is, because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And especially, we don't know what we don't know in general in life, but especially in a foreign country with a foreign language, with foreign rules. So how do you help? Tell us how, this journey led you to Kipper Tree and what Kipper Tree provides.
Well, yeah, as I said, about 10 years ago, with all the troubles that we'd had in renovating a ruin and all the problems, I just felt there needed to be somewhere that people could go to not only find property, but to find all the other things that they need to lessen the chance of it going wrong. So Kipper Tree is a property portal. There are about 50,000 properties on there, but more importantly, there are partner companies that we work with that provide the services that you will need. So companies that can provide you with the visa and get you through the visa regulations, surveying partners that will help you survey your property before you purchase it, resources to help you, such as webinar partners to help you ask the questions that you need to ask and get answers from experts. So all these services are all built into Kipper Tree, and it's kind of like a one-stop shop, if you like, for people moving to Portugal, Madeira, or the Azores. And we're specific to Portugal rather than the whole of Europe. So you'll find because we use a legal partner as well, that the content is correct on the date of its publishing. It's not hearsay. These are companies that specialize in this type of work to help people move from a foreign country into Portugal. We even have a currency partner that can get you the best deal on moving your money, whether it be a regular pension payment or moving your money to actually buy a property. So it's all there, it's all in one place. And that was the idea. And that's hopefully how we get to pass on that information.
That's awesome. And how can people get to Kipper Tree? Where is it?
Yeah, literally, you don't need, just type in Kipper Tree in the internet. There is only one. It will pop up. Just have a look at the site, work your way around it. It's very user friendly. We've got a lot of media pages on there. If you go to the media section, you can see how to use the site, but also you can see videos from our partners. You can also read the blogs that are on there. Yeah, there's about, I don't know, maybe 180, 190 articles on there, all about moving to Portugal, whether it be learning the language or visas, whatever you need, it's all there.
Awesome. That's great. And you will find also my blog posts because I'm awesome.
Yes, you're on there. You are on there.
So thank you so much, Darren. It was a pleasure. I hope everyone got a little glimpse of a real story of moving to Portugal and how that created this idea to serve people to make their journey better in a I'm going to use this term loosely, in a holistic way, because it's everything a one-stop shop. Now, I just wanted to let you know that all of the relevant links and everything related to Kipper Tree will be in the description box. Do the YouTube thing, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff to keep us giving you relevant information. And I will see you next time in the next video. Bye-bye.